This is the Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Your word is sharper than any two-edged sword, and it cuts deep into my heart.
The Word to Stand On for Life is a radio ministry of Calvary Chapel in San Antonio. A live call-in show here to help you answer your questions about the Bible and how to apply the Word to your daily life. For more information on Calvary Chapel, visit our website, calvarysa.com. Get your Bible questions ready and call in now to 210-340-9585. It's The Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Welcome to the program. It's Thursday, so you know that means this is the date day edition of the program. Paula is here in the studio with me. I'm Pastor Ron Arbaugh from Calvary Chapel in San Antonio, Texas, and this is The Word to Stand Up for Life, a program dedicated to taking your phone calls and answering your questions, Bible questions, church questions, life questions, relationship questions, marriage questions with Paula today, whatever's on your heart. All you need to do is dial 210-340-9585. If you're outside the local San Antonio area, you can call toll-free at 877-630-KSLR. That's 630-5757. You can email questions to us by emailing questions at calvarysa.com, or you can use our Calvary Chapel mobile app. If you are driving in your car, the safest way to call is to use the free KSLR mobile app. Just hit the Call Now banner at the top of the screen. You'll be able to connect to the studio producer, and we'll have you on the air. Paula, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Weird day today. Didn't sleep much last night because of the noise.
Ooh.
It's a tough night, and you know, we need to acknowledge there's a bunch of people hurting. There are a lot of people, any is too many, but as many as 4 confirmed dead, and there's still a couple cars and families missing, and they're presumed dead. Boy, tough stuff.
Mm-hmm. It makes me so sad.
Yeah. That's what I tell people, you know, every day in an instant.
It can change.
For good or for bad.
Yeah.
That's why we've got to be busy about sharing our faith, because we never know who it is that we're talking to.
Yeah. Man.
So with that, audience, be careful. I guess we've got more storms coming. Be very, very careful. The ground is saturated and water levels will rise. Do not attempt to cross running water in these low water areas in particular. So, okay, that's my PSA announcement.
That's your loving kindness demonstrated to the people of San Antonio, who you love so much.
Okay, what's up with you? What's on your heart?
Excuse me. So I don't know where to begin, because as I was walking this morning, you know, I was taking an instruction from my pastor. You know him?
I know him.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was saying, you know, when you're talking to the Lord, we all need a word from him daily, you know. And so as I was telling you this morning, I've been kind of tired, you know, just because we've had so much stuff going on, and the sadness of losing, you know, people that we loved. And so I'm still reading my Psalms, and I'm still reading my Proverbs, but you hear how I'm saying it? It's like I'm doing what I know to do, and I'm still coming to church, and, you know, I see God's hand here and there, but there's still a sadness. And so it just wasn't hitting me. And yet, so yesterday after we got home, I just took another one of your cues as far as reading Romans 8. I just kept reading it over and over and over again, and that kind of made me come out of it. I'm so sorry, my throat. But, so today as I'm walking, you know, because now I'm better, Jesus is with me, and I said, okay, Lord, I need to hear from you. What do you have for me? And he says, look what mercy has done. And I was like, oh, okay. And so, you know, I like to look back at things. And yet, I don't want to keep looking back at just life, I want to look back and see God's hand in what he has been doing. So instead of looking back, I was looking kind of like maybe back to Monday.
As I get older, Paul, that's about as far as I can look back. So.
Okay. So with Jackie's testimony, her devotion, amazing, because we've known Jackie. She's been here since she was 3 years old. And now she's 25, I think 25. And for her to have been just, her words, did you get to watch it?
No, it's tomorrow. I'll try to get it tomorrow morning.
You have really missed out. I thought you said you're going to watch it today at 2 o'clock.
I tried, didn't work.
Oh, poo. Yeah. So, now I feel like I'm going to just tell you everything.
Go ahead. I'm going to watch it anyway. She's my granddaughter.
Yeah, true. And you've already lived a lot of it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of it, and she wasn't graphic, and I really appreciate that, and loudly encourage the other speakers that are coming, because I don't know what they're going to talk about either, that we can see the picture. You just tell us the general outline. We don't need all the details filled in. And Jackie did a great job of that. But just looking at her, because, we used to call her baby. And then, she became a teenager. And then she said, call me Jackie, because baby. She wasn't a baby anymore. But she let you still call her baby. And me, she didn't mind when I called her baby. And she has it tattooed on her arm. So, I mean, really, but that was when she was older. But to see her so beautiful as a young girl, and then how dark she became, where she was, in her words again, unrecognizable as, what has happened to you? What's going on? Kind of a thing. But to see her now, and she kept saying, I don't deserve. And so, the word today, look at what mercy has done. And what she kept saying is, I don't deserve. And so I looked up, the definition of mercy. It's forgiveness and kindness, especially given to one who does not deserve it. And just to see the goodness of God. And what I said maybe last week, in all of the devotions that have been in the past and those that will come in the future, probably forever, as long as I'm alive and I can hear them, we all say, God was always there. He was always chasing me. He was always there, dropping little hints or whispering to me. Yeah.
Paul, let me explain for just a moment to the audience what you're talking about. We are our ladies are in the Sweet Summer Devotion series for the summer. And Jackie was the second installment. You were first. Now you're going to be taking a 2-week break because you and I are going on vacation. Yes. And
I don't want to miss, so we cancel them.
Yeah, it's just pretty selfish, but
pretty
that's
selfish.
okay.
I don't want to miss.
And what we do is the Lord kind of leads you to pick 8 or 9 women, depending on how many weeks there are available, and they share what God has done, what mercy has done in their lives. And Jackie, who has been here for most of her life, since she was 3 years old. We grew up with these kids, and in full disclosure, Jackie's father is a pastor, Pastor Juan. I've had him on this program several times, and Juan and Lachelle have been around forever, and they're our kids. And Jackie is not blood, but she is our granddaughter. And so we have gone through pain watching her life. But God is so faithful, and that's what she was sharing.
She was sharing so well. And she was so cute. Many, many, many years ago, to her mom, I will never. Yeah. And another thing is, when people would share their... And it's their responsibility, Jackie, you're going to this school. Bible study at home together. You might never be saved, but did their job as far as showing their children the Lord, and His way. And so she was saying that all this time she was immersed in Jesus, and yet she had a hard heart. And a lot of times we think that if the kids are nice and they're here and that they're all saved. That's just not the case.
And Jackie, like a lot of kids, when she was here, she knew the right things to do, and she wasn't a bad girl or anything. Her heart was hard toward God.
Yeah, and it got hard at age 17. She said the world started to be enticing and interesting, and I wonder what else is out there, out of the Christians. And she said after graduation, she really spiraled out of control. And then she went on to tell us, party scene, sex, drugs, alcohol. And I know as a grandpa, you don't want to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm watching now.
Yeah, you may not watch now, yeah. And she said for money and drugs. She said it was awful. And I couldn't believe when she said this, because just our granddaughter, she hated coming to church. She hated coming to church. And she said, when you're in that life of sin, that's the last place you want to be, And she said she would come and she didn't care that her face looked like she didn't want to be here. And there were a lot of times when you could tell, and it was just heartbreaking. And so I can tell the whole thing, but she said she asked her mom and her dad, what was I like during that time? And her mom just flat out said, you were a witch. And then you were a witch. And then Jackie said, and then she just went about her life, went about her day. And Pastor Juan said, I wanted to fight you like a man. He wanted just to probably beat the snot out of her. But yeah, and then she goes on to tell, the things that she had planned on leaving, and it was awful. And but God, He just in a matter of hours just devastated all of her plans after she had lost everything. She lost friends and even some close ones here in the church who really were standing by her. And then the Lord in a moment, in a one-night stand, looked down and saw a tattoo on the guy's arm. It said, forgiveness. She said that was the Lord's gentle invitation back to her. And so I can just say, and people who watched it, I'm just repeating pretty much everything she said. And I don't know if I
just got an email from our listener in Austin, our friend Hendel, and she said Jackie's testimony was amazing. She was so brave, so transparent. I just wanted to hug her.
I know, exactly. And I told Jackie, because when I've been asking her, and she just said, and she wasn't ready. But this time when she was ready, and I asked you if it was okay to ask her, she said, no. I said, well, you can pray about it. She goes, no, I'll do it, kind of a thing. But she said, and that was, I don't know how many months ago, but she said, I'll probably be really thin by then because I'll be sick to my stomach this whole time. But when she was finished, I said, Jackie, because I've been telling her, Jackie, this is going to be good for so many people to see the forgiveness, the patience, the love of God, and all that He has done for you. Look at where you are now. You could be used for not just girls your age and younger, but women much older than you who could look back and get over the guilt and shame of the things that they have done in the past.
Yeah, Paula, when you dropped me off here, it was my intent, as you know, to come in and listen to it. And then I ran into people out there that...
Of course.
So, But I asked Annette, my office manager, I said, have you heard Jackie? Because they've been around all the time. They've known Jackie her life, too. Mm-hmm. I said, have you been able to watch Jackie's now? She just had a new grandchild, so they've been in the hospital and busy. No, I haven't. And Pastor Ken came running around and says, oh, you've got to listen to that. Yeah. He said, as soon as I listened to it, I went to, and then he mentioned another person's name. He says, I want you to give this to your sister, who's fallen away. I want you to give this to her sister. It's something everybody's got to watch.
Yeah, I've sent it via YouTube to watch it. Yeah. It's way more dynamic watching it than it is just listening to it. And I don't know if we got it up on our website to see it. We have. Okay, it is. So, but watching it, not just listening to it, is totally different.
Well, Paul, talk to me a little bit about the Q&A. What kind of things? We keep telling people they need to be here on Monday nights. You can watch the Sweet Summer Devotion, but you're blocked out of the Q&A that happens because we don't film, we don't video it, and so we've got a young girl who was a prodigal who comes home now, is walking with Jesus. She has a son who's just precious, and she's really, really dug in and loves the Lord and
serving here now. Just looks so different.
So that had to be a wonderfully encouraging thing for a lot of the parents to hear, because they've got prodigals themselves. So talk about the Q&A. What kind of things were asked in the Q&A?
Well, one was, is the father of the child involved in the life? And the answer is no. For the first 3 months, it was very difficult, trying to work that out. But he has a family already, and so he made a big mistake as well. And so, no, he's not involved at all. I think I'm trying to remember the questions. I should have written them down, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. She couldn't even look. Jackie couldn't look at her mom when she was, and thanking her mom basically for not giving up, and
I'm sure for being consistent. It would have been easy just to blow your stack and get out of here, and
Well, no, they did kick her out because she just wasn't, complying. Somebody asked, "Are you dating? Are you looking?" And Jackie was like, "No. I am content where I am." And she also, she did say that people were trying to, from the past, because the devil's always busy. Where are you? Offering job situations, and why don't we reconnect? And Jackie was like, no. But she got the opportunity to say, I'm not that same person anymore. But then, side note is, I thought I unfriended you or something, blocked your number. So she was curious how people got their number. But I'm really trying to remember, the questions weren't so much, it wasn't so much that it was questions. It was a lot of, thank you for being so open and transparent. Thank you because you've given us a lot of hope for our own children, mostly daughters. It was mostly that.
Okay, you mentioned something to me about a conversation Pastor Juan had with Jackie about potential consequences. Why don't you share that a little bit?
Yeah, no, both of her parents told her, Jackie, if you keep going down this road the way you're going, you're headed for four things they gave her. They said death, STD, sexually transmitted disease, prison, or you're going to end up pregnant. And so she, the night of that one night stand, she said, because she had been doing a whole lot of stuff for a long time. But that particular night, that one night stand, she said she knew that the consequences of this particular day was going to change her life forever. And that's Elijah. Because a week or so later, she found out that she's pregnant. But when it was at the Q&A, I remember saying, Jackie, your parents, because her parents, she and her brother, Jackie and Johnny, grew up with parents who gave them scenarios of life, to prepare them. This could happen, Jackie. You are young, you're beautiful. People are going to approach you with these kinds of things.
I would pay a lot of money. If I had a lot of money, I would pay a lot of money to watch Lachelle do those scenarios.
Yes, and Juan. They both did them to prepare their kids for probably a lot of stuff that they already had experienced, to prepare their kids. And so a lot of the things that have happened both to Johnny and to Jackie happened the way Mom and Dad really put it out there. But, when you're rebellious, like, whatever.
It's not going to happen to me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, after we were talking, I said, okay, so when you think about it, the mercy and the grace of God, you could be dead, and you should have been. She said, I could have been several times. She said she woke up in rooms with people totally passed out, that she didn't know, table full of drugs and paraphernalia. She would drive home drunk or just high, didn't even know how she got there. She said it was like there was an angel sitting in the passenger seat to make sure I got home. But anyway, between death, the STD, prison, I said, and pregnancy, I'll choose pregnancy. And that's what happened. God's mercy, because she could have been dead. She could be carrying, a disease. She could be in prison for some of the things that she did. And God's mercy spared her.
So would the Lord say, look what mercy has done?
Look what mercy has done.
Paul, it's really, it's hard, and I don't mean to set pastors out as special people, but it is really hard when a pastor's kids go off course.
Yeah.
There are people in the church judging you and what kind of parent are you, and you're supposed to be, your kids are this and that. Mm-hmm. But what Juan and Lachelle did in raising both Johnny and Jackie is did what Solomon said: train up a child in the way he should go, and in the end he won't depart. Mm-hmm. And Johnny, of course, has been following the Lord.
He was our first evangelist.
Yeah, he's been following the Lord without any incidents and breaks, and just falling more in love with the Lord, getting more and more involved as an adult. Now he's a father of two little ones, and married just a treasure of a woman who loves the Lord. Jackie's come back home.
Yeah.
And that's what God has done.
Yeah. And to see the humility, not the humiliation, because it's a
big difference.
It's a big difference. The humility in her presentation, like I'm saying, you got to watch it, was amazing. And she was open, she wasn't hard, like whatever. She wasn't blaming anybody else. It was just Jackie's decisions. Like I said, when she got to Matthew 11:28, baby, man, she said, "You guys know this scripture," and she said this used to be her favorite one when she was a teenager because of the way it made her feel, but she didn't get it until now. And so she come to me. She said that was Jesus's invitation to come as you are. It wasn't come to me or I'm going to beat you up, or come to me and fix yourself up, clean yourself up first. It wasn't a bunch of rules, do, or else. It was just come to me. My arms are wide open. I love you. Just come to me. And then it says, you who are heavy laden, she says, I was so tired of the sin and chaos in my life.
But it's sort of a trap, and you don't know how to get out of it. And
Yeah.
That's why Jesus is the exit route.
Yeah. She says, he says, I will give you rest. And it's, she said, a place to lay down in peace. She said, I needed peace so badly. Take my yoke. He says, and she said, I got you. It's like Jesus says, I got you, baby. Don't worry. We can finish the rest on the other side.
And we can call her baby again.
Yes. Yes.
Paula, 2 weeks. Who's up next?
I'll let you know on the other side because I forget.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thanks for listening. We've got 30 minutes left in the Thursday Date Day Show. 210-340-9585. We'd love any questions, comments that you might have. Toll free 877-630-KSLR. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to the Word to Stand On for Life. We're taking your calls at 340-9585 or toll free 877-630-KSLR. Now, here's Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Welcome back to the second half of our Date Day Show, 210-340-9585. We're talking about our Sweet Summer Devotion and whatever else Paula wants to talk about. So, Paula, why don't you pick it up from here?
Okay, so as I was saying, Jackie was saying that the Lord was telling her, and I will give you rest, a place to lay down in peace. And she was saying she just needed peace so badly, you know. Take my yoke upon you. And he was saying, I got you. I got you, Jackie, you know, because she was saying it in her testimony. Look at all I've done. Will I be able to come back after all this, you know? And so...
Which I think that speaks to the humility you mentioned in the first half of the program. You know, coming back to God, you know, we may have to face some of the consequences in the way people look at us. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, when you walk in humility, you realize that the only one that you really need to please is the Lord. Mm-hmm. And the only way to please him is to come back. Mm-hmm. So it's just a risk-reward thing, but the reward is infinitely greater than anything that you might risk.
Yeah. You know what? And her mom was sitting there in the front row, you know. And what you're saying is, Lachelle's face was one that says, I'm such a proud mom right now. I'm such a proud and grateful mom and grandma right now, because things could have turned out way different. Elijah was coming, you know, the baby, that's the baby's name. He was going to be here. And sometimes these girls go the wrong way, and grandma and grandpa, they have to worry all the time. What's going to happen to my daughter? What's going to happen to my grandson? And they don't. But they never changed. They were still loving but firm. You say that. You can be direct but loving. And they were direct and loving. And when she got a little out of control, she had to go. And she said, Jackie says, I was planning on leaving anyway, you know, at that time. And she went away with a friend. They had some really ugly plans. And that's in 2 hours. They drove all the way to Florida. And in 2 hours, that whole plan just blew up, turned right back around, and came back to San Antonio. That's a Rubik's Cube. It's kind of a thing, but God. Mm-hmm. But to see Lachelle's face just looking at Jackie, so proud. This is what God can do. Look what mercy has done. So anyway, she goes on to say, and it says, learn of him, and that's to walk with him daily. A relationship. She said that having been asked to share her testimony got her into the Word more. And she said, you know, every question, and she's been hearing this for years, you know, every scenario, you know, the Bible speaks to it. And so, yeah. But she said that he's compassionate. She said even at her lowest, he was right there. He was right there saying, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And then Jackie in a very encouraging way, looked at the audience and said, that means you don't have to go through this alone. No matter how hard it is, how fearful you might be, or how bad of a situation you put yourself in, he's right there. You don't have to go through it alone. He waits for us with arms open wide. And when we feel our most undone, that's when he says, come on, come to me. So it was just, I'm going to watch it again. I know I am.
You watched it
twice
in
already.
person, watched it online?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've watched it. I'm going to watch it again. It's just so good, and it's great instruction for all of us. And she gave scriptures that spoke to her. And so that was one of those where you can go home and read those scriptures for yourself if you're in a bad situation and get great encouragement. I mean, I'm going to watch it again. That's my granddaughter. I've already sent it to several people, too. Yeah, so it's really, really good.
That's one of the reasons that we do Sweet Summer Devotion. I can't get over thinking how much hope that had to give so many of the ladies who were there who were dealing with their own prodigals.
They came up just hugging, like Kendall. They came up to hug her and thank her. And I texted Jackie yesterday to say, so Jackie, are you getting any inquiries or any other ladies? She said, not inquiries per se, but I'm getting quite a few texts saying, thank you so much for your transparency and your openness and how encouraging it was. And I said, I know, I told you.
Yeah, and I say this in love for Jackie, but the humility that you mentioned, because she was not humble when she was going through all of this.
No.
And to see the humility is just, it's just like, it's almost like the thumbprint of God on her forehead, and when you've been with the Lord, humility is a glorious result.
Yeah. I'm so proud of her, Ron. And she did say that the battle doesn't end after salvation. She shared about her deep depression and postpartum rage. She shared about that. You just watch that. And she said 2 Corinthians 12:9 was what she ran to. And I mean, she just kept looking at the audience and giving encouragement. If you going through these kind of things, they're really real. But God. And she was talking about now the new perspective. Acts 17:26. God didn't make Jackie make the decisions she made. He didn't put her in the situations that she put herself in. He didn't make her hate coming to church. None of that was the Lord. But she says, with the new perspective, the fact that removing people from her life and not letting her plan work out, she now sees it's the very best thing. And she went to Romans 8:28. The very best thing that he did that for her, because she didn't have the nerve or even the desire to do what was right. She had her mind made up. This is what I'm going to do. And so God
one of the things
over.
that I'm going to disconnect this from Jackie for a moment because it's a more general comment. But I think one of the things we have to learn is that a lot of our problem with depression, whether it's postpartum or discouragement turning into depression, when we're away from the Lord, and especially when we've made a profession of faith, we belong to you, Lord. And Jackie did many times. Jackie sung at our Christmas plays, and she's performed in them. And I mean, she grew up knowing who the Lord was, and she had loving parents who showed her that kind of consistency. But the reality is, when we are away from the Lord, we're going to be depressed.
Yeah.
Things aren't going to work out.
Nope.
I love the fact that God loves us so much He won't let things that will cause us to go farther from Him work out. We can plan and we can plan. And Jackie, by the way, is a brilliant young woman. She's smart. She, as you mentioned, she's beautiful. The world has all kinds of opportunities for people like her. But now she's realized, wait a minute, I was really fighting against God. And that's not a very smart decision.
No, that's right.
And that's the source of humility. And when you're walking with the Lord and you're walking in humility, depression and fear and all those other things anxiety just seem to go. Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
Yeah. I'm gonna finish just a little bit of this, but then I want to ask you a question. Maybe you could be thinking about it now, because at the pastor discipleship classes that we have every other Saturday, which we have this Saturday, Pastor Juan and Lachelle would talk about how heartbreaking it was to be going through this and how it had affected them, where at the beginning they didn't even want to openly share about it. So, but let me finish this, because she said, now with the new perspective, like I said, the Lord removing the people and the plan was the best thing that could happen. And she did look at the audience and say, I still struggle, but I'm no longer carrying the weight of my sin. That's just freedom. And she said, I'm forgiven, redeemed, I have a clean slate. And she says, every day I'm in the Word for myself and with my son and with my parents, and the Lord is saying, I can still use you.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that is a source of real anger for me, there are a lot of Christians who, when somebody falls away from the Lord and they do these things and now there are consequences, they'll say, well, praise the Lord that you're back, but then they'll treat that person like they're damaged goods. And there's no damaged goods when you're right with Christ. The old is gone and the new has come. And we need to have a different perspective on people who return to the Lord. Yeah. I came to the Lord after messing up my whole adult life. And I've been steady and consistent since. But a lot of these kids that were raised, they had advantages that I didn't have. I didn't go to church, had never opened the Bible. Jackie and others here were bathed in it constantly. And, we've got flesh, and flesh rebels. And when those people come back, and this is what we can really, really, really take from the parable of the prodigal son, as soon as he returned, get the robe and get the ring and get the sandals, and the restoration was complete. It was the brother in the house that thought he was okay that was the real problem. And there's just too many Christians who think that, well, there must have been something going on in that house, or, well, yeah, she's saved and I'm really glad, and that's just spiritual nonsense. Jackie, you, me, we stand before the Lord completely and utterly perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful you are, my darling Jackie. There's no flaw in you.
Yeah.
And we humans who have a tendency to look for the flaws, look for the specks in the eyes, we're the ones who need to be humbled.
That's right. And you know what? I had to tell that to Jackie in the Q&A too. Okay, Jackie, this whole thing was really for you. Because a lot of times people don't want to share their testimony because of what you just said. Now they'll really know me, and they'll look at me differently. They'll treat me differently. But this was Freedom Day for her, because really the only one who truly matters is the one who gave her the mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she said, John 10:10, to use that, the devil comes to rob, kill, and destroy. And she said, but God died to give us abundant life full of purpose. And so I was saying that, Jackie, no more guilt, no more shame. Even in the humility, you could still feel that there was some humiliation in it as well. And so you have been forgiven, and now the Lord wants to use you. And so after that, she told us, don't run from God, run to his word.
Well, you just read the devil comes to kill, to destroy, to steal. Mm-hmm. But Jackie's other verse is, we come to him. And we come to him, we're covered in his beauty, and we're covered in his perfection. Mm-hmm. And whether it's Jackie or anybody else in this audience who's listening, it doesn't matter what you've done. At some point, Jesus is going to look at you like he did with the woman caught in the act of adultery. He's going to say, "Woman, where are your accusers?" And she says, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, neither do I accuse you." And as a church, and I don't mean Calvary Chapel, but I mean as a church of Jesus Christ, we need to be a lot better and a lot happier when people come back and there are no accusers. Yeah. Because Jesus has wiped out all their sins. Yeah. So I'm real proud of her. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. And, to see that she believes, she's forgiven. Yeah. Because a lot of people don't believe that they're really forgiven. She believes it.
That's because the devil is always what Billy called him, Slewfoot. He's always yelling in your ear, "You're guilty, you did this, you know who you are, if they knew the truth." Yeah. And what we got to do is just say, talk to the hand. I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to Jesus. And if we do that. Okay, so what did you want to ask me?
How Pastor Juan and Lachelle would sometimes come to the pastor discipleship class going through this. Jackie was in the school from kindergarten, graduated from the academy, and he being a pastor's kid, there's a lot of pressure on pastors' kids to be perfect, to be the ones who are the leaders and do everything right, and then to be going through this, like you're saying. I think Pastor Juan and Lachelle might have had some issues as far as other people saying, "What's going on in your home? Why is she doing this? I saw her out here, and she was doing this, and she was wearing this, and she was saying this." They would kind of cry sometimes I'm answering my own question. Huh?
Yeah, I'm sure they shed a lot of tears, and God doesn't waste those tears either. Yeah, and that their prayers were prayers from a place of pain, a place of grief. Where they had to be real with the Lord. But let me make something really clear. Juan and Lachelle were wonderful, consistent parents. And we can't force our kids to do anything. Once they're old enough to make their own choices, and Juan and Lachelle allowed Jackie to live with the consequences of her choices. Yeah. And they didn't... And, when you're going through stuff, it's not like we've got to dump on people and share everything. There's a time and a sensitivity when to share these things and when to talk. When Jackie was pregnant, it was very hard for them because they had to come where Mom and Dad did them. Yeah. And they had to come to us and tell us Jackie's pregnant. And
that was hard.
It's heartbreaking. We cried together that day. Yeah. And but we never once thought that Jackie was anything other than our granddaughter who we loved. Yeah.
And I think that's the key. If we could think, and this is what is working for me recently, because thinking about Jackie being my own daughter, how would I react? And sometimes when it's your own daughter and you kind of button heads, because they were butting heads at home. But then how would I treat her if she was somebody else's daughter? Sometimes we treat other people better than we do the ones at our home because we have these expectations. And so wouldn't I be maybe a lot more patient with somebody else's child rather than my own? You take your own, you're like, you know better. I've trained you better. You know better.
Yeah, and Juan and Lachelle were never guilty of that. That's humility. Yeah. It's arrogance when we think that we're above the things that happen to other people. I'll tell a very quick story, if it's okay with you. Sure. Years ago, we had one of the most godly young women she's still around the church. She's now a mom, but she just was a young, godly woman that everybody, all the other kids, looked up to. Mm-hmm. And she came to me in tears and said, "Pastor Ron, I'm pregnant."
Mm-hmm. That was a shock.
Yep. Yeah. And we were shocked. Yeah. Immediately, we had a meeting with the boy and her. And the one thing that I hope every parent will hear this, if they find themselves in a situation, the first thing that this young woman and her now husband, who is a wonderful, godly man, he wasn't then, but he is now. And the first thing he heard me say was, this is not the end of the world. God will turn this and make it into something beautiful if you allow him to do it.
Yeah.
And I think too often, Paula, and you referred to this, but I think too often our response to these things is to scold and to demean, to heap shame and condemnation upon people who do the things that we do ourselves.
Yeah, they kind of learn some of this stuff from us.
And I think that when moms and dads, you have a kid that makes a horrible mistake, don't minimize it. It is a horrible sin. It's not a mistake, it's sin.
Yeah.
This young woman that I'm talking about, when word got out that she was pregnant, and especially her friends would come around and say, "Oh, we want to throw you a baby shower, and we want to do this, and it's no big deal. So you made a mistake, but it's okay." And this young woman, she told them all, "It's not okay. What I did was sin. It's not okay." That's accepting responsibility.
Yes. Oh, we were so proud.
Oh, and but at the same time, because we're hurting, we want to hurt. And instead, what we need to do is we need to let people know this isn't the end of the world. There's consequences. You have to grow up. Yeah. But you've got a family here that will help you grow up. We'll be here for you and with you. But at the same time, grace is wonderful.
Yeah.
And you return to God. Yeah. Come unto me, Jackie said. Yeah. You return to God, and you're covered in grace, and the sin is as though it never happened. And I know you said to me personally, I don't think you said on this program today, but
what's that?
She talked about the depth of her love for Elijah.
Oh, yeah.
And, Elijah may have been conceived in sin, but believe me, he has been living in grace, and he's been living in joy, and he has been a wonderful source of joy. And Jackie is experiencing a depth of love that she never knew possible within her. Yeah. And she's also experiencing the depth of love for her son that Pastor Juan Lachelle had for her.
Yes.
Even while they were going through all of this pain.
Yeah. She said she had just a moment. She says, I would never do it, but she said, because I didn't deserve to be a mama, I considered an abortion. She said, I really wouldn't have gone through it, but she said, it was a really horrible, painful delivery. And she said, but it was like the Lord took a little 4-pound, 11-ounce baby from his hand and put it in mine. And she said, that was it. Yeah, this sweet thing. And she went through a lot of pain.
One of our other young girls in the church that is a granddaughter to us. People say, well, is everybody granddaughter? There are just some families that God deposits in your heart, and there are some families that invite you into their lives. We don't barge into anybody's life. Yeah. But when people invite us in, we're all in.
We're in there.
And she just had a baby this week. And you're watching these kids grow up. And oh, what a wonderful mom she's going to be. And all I can think about is how much honor and glory this brings to the Lord. Jackie was a rebel. Mm-hmm. The other girl that I'm talking about was godly. Mm-hmm. They're in the same situation. Yep. The young woman who had the baby this week, she's been consistently, except for the fact that she talks all the time, she's never had a moment of rebellion against the Lord. She just loves God. Mm-hmm. And God loves us so much. The husband he picked for her was another grandson who grew up in this church, and we're just thinking, wow, he hit the wife jackpot. She hit the husband jackpot. Yeah. God, this is what it's supposed to be like. Yeah. Yeah. And they all stand together before the Lord perfect. And Jackie had a chance to minister to a lot of people, and she took
she
advantage
will.
of it.
She will continue to.
And she will continue to do
Yes.
it. And I can't wait to see what the Lord has in store for Jackie. And let me just say for Pastor Juan and Lachelle, you handled this exactly the way godly parents should have handled it.
Yeah.
And look at the reward.
Yeah.
Train them up in the way they should go, and in the end, they won't depart.
Yeah.
Well, in the end, Jackie returned home. Yeah. Paula, we're inside 2 minutes. So
I know. I'm just standing in awe. And yeah, you did ask me the question about who is next after 2 weeks. So let me see. We're gone the 16th and the 23rd. So on June 30th, it'll be Jennifer Fox. Jennifer Fox. She is kind of quiet, so I don't know her life very much at all. I know she has a daughter and a son, and she's been around for a long time. She teaches here at the school. I know she's a runner, but pretty much great mom, but I don't know how she got to us.
She's responsible for a lot of fruit
Yeah.
in our school with the kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's just, I mean, the Lord is so good to put, Sweet Summer Devotions on my heart those many years ago, and look what He's done. Look what Mercy has done, because I think that's going to be next year's Sweet Summer Devotion theme. Look what Mercy has done, because He's just merciful, and I can't wait for the rest of these devotions, because many people are always spoken to. Not everybody can relate with Jackie.
hey, thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to the Date Day edition of the Word to Stand On for Life. I'm Pastor Ron Arbaugh from Calvary Chapel in San Antonio, Texas, and I'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Lord willing, on AM 630 The Word. We'll see you then.
He's willing. Bye-bye.
Thanks for spending this time with Calvary Chapel's The Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh. The Word to Stand On for Life is on every weekday afternoon at 4, and Pastor Ron invites you to find out more about Calvary Chapel at calvarysa.com. The Word to Stand On for Life was sponsored by Calvary Chapel of San Antonio.